The Value of Time, a story of procrastination and redemption. In a small village nestled between rolling hills and flowing streams, there lived a boy named Minh. Minh was known throughout the village for one particular trait, his extraordinary laziness. This wasn't the kind of occasional laziness that affects us all from time to time. No, Minh had elevated procrastination to an art form. He consistently postponed important tasks, avoided responsibilities whenever possible, and seemed to have an infinite capacity for finding excuses to delay anything that required effort. Despite countless warnings from his concerned parents about the precious nature of time, Minh remained unmoved. His teachers had tried everything, from gentle encouragement to stern lectures about the consequences of his behavior. But Minh had perfected the art of nodding politely while letting the advice slide off him like water from a duck's back. He genuinely believed he had all the time in the world, that opportunities would always be waiting for him whenever he finally decided to pursue them. While his classmates diligently completed their assignments, studied for exams, and developed valuable skills, Minh spent his days in idle pursuits. He would wander aimlessly through the village, skip stones across the local pond, or simply lie in the grass watching clouds drift by. These weren't occasional breaks to refresh his mind. This was his daily routine. Whenever he witnessed his peers receiving praise for their achievements or advancing in their studies, he would simply sigh and mutter to himself, "I'll start working hard later. I have plenty of time." But that promised later remained perpetually in the future, never materializing into the present. His parents, hardworking farmers who understood the value of discipline and consistent effort, were at their wits' end. They had provided Minh with every opportunity they could afford, sacrificing their own comforts to ensure he had access to education. Yet their son seemed determined to squander these privileges through his persistent inaction. "Minh," his father would say, his voice heavy with disappointment. "Time is the one resource you can never recover once it's spent. When you waste a day, it's gone forever." Minh would nod solemnly, appearing to absorb the wisdom, but by the next morning, he would have reverted to his old habits. His mother tried a different approach, sharing stories of successful people from their village who had risen from humble beginnings through dedication and hard work. But these tales of triumph over adversity failed to ignite any spark of motivation in Minh's complacent heart. As months passed, a noticeable gap developed between Minh and his peers. They were advancing in their studies, learning trades, and beginning to map out futures for themselves. Meanwhile, Minh remained stagnant, his potential untapped, his talents undiscovered, because he never exerted himself enough to find them. His teachers began to view him with a mixture of frustration and resignation, believing that perhaps he was simply destined for a life of mediocrity. Then one spring day, news spread through the village like wildfire. A renowned wise man was visiting. This wasn't just any traveling philosopher or self-proclaimed guru. This man was known throughout the region for his profound wisdom, practical advice, and ability to see into the hearts of those who sought his counsel. People from neighboring villages were already making the journey to seek his guidance on matters ranging from family disputes to business decisions. The wise man set up a simple tent in the village square, where he received visitors from dawn until dusk. Lines formed early each morning, with people waiting patiently for their opportunity to speak with him. Stories of his insights spread quickly. How he had helped a farmer identify the perfect crop for his struggling fields. How he had reconciled two brothers who hadn't spoken in decades. How he had guided a confused young woman toward her true calling. Minh initially scoffed at the excitement. "What can an old man possibly know that would change anything?" he remarked to his friends. But as the days passed and more villagers emerged from consultations with renewed purpose and clarity, his curiosity was piqued. Perhaps, he thought, this wise man might have some magical solution, some secret shortcut that would allow him to surpass his hardworking classmates without actually having to put in the effort himself. With this self-serving motivation, Minh finally decided to visit the wise man. He waited in line for nearly 3 hours, shifting impatiently from foot to foot, several times nearly abandoning the endeavor altogether. When his turn finally came, he entered the tent with a mixture of skepticism and desperate hope. The wise man sat cross-legged on a simple mat. He was older than Minh had expected, with a long white beard and deep wrinkles that mapped a life of experiences across his face. But his eyes were startlingly clear and penetrating, seeming to look not just at Minh but into him. "Sir," Minh began, trying to sound more respectful than he felt. "I've come because I feel like a failure. All my classmates are advancing and achieving things, while I remain behind. I want to be the best among them. Can you tell me how I can do that? Is there some secret or shortcut I'm missing?" The wise man studied Minh for a long moment before speaking. When he finally did, his voice was gentle but carried an unmistakable weight of authority. "My child," he said, "your problem is not that you lack intelligence or opportunity. Your problem is that you do not value time. You consistently delay your tasks and waste precious moments on things of no consequence. Let me tell you a story that may help you understand what you're doing to yourself." Minh, who had hoped for a quick solution or magical advice, felt a flicker of disappointment. Another story, another lecture. But something in the wise man's gaze held him in place, and despite his instinct to make an excuse and leave, he found himself nodding and settling down to listen. The wise man began his tale. "Once, in a kingdom not far from here, there lived a king who was known for his kindness and generosity. He ruled justly and was beloved by his subjects. One day, while traveling through the marketplace in disguise, as was his custom to better understand the lives of his people, he encountered a man he recognized from his youth. This was no ordinary acquaintance, but a dear friend from his school days. The king was shocked by what he saw. His once vibrant and ambitious friend was now dressed in tattered clothes, his face gaunt with hunger and etched with the lines of constant worry. The king approached him, revealed his identity, and invited his old friend to the palace for a meal. Over dinner, the king inquired about his friend's circumstances. "What happened to you?" he asked. "You were once so full of dreams and potential." The man sighed deeply and launched into a litany of complaints and excuses. "Your Majesty, fate has been cruel to me. Every time I apply for a position, I am rejected. People have spread rumors that I am unreliable and lazy. My enemies have conspired against me. Nothing ever works out in my favor." The king listened carefully, but his keen eyes noticed something his friend did not say. There was no mention of his own efforts or responsibilities in this tale of woe. Still, the king's heart was moved by compassion for his childhood companion. After some thought, the king made an extraordinary offer. "My friend," he said, "I want to help you change your fortune. I propose this. Tomorrow, before the sun sets, you may enter my royal treasury and take as much gold and as many jewels as you can carry. This is my gift to you, a chance to start anew." The man's eyes widened with disbelief and joy. This was beyond anything he could have hoped for. He thanked the king profusely, bowing so low his forehead touched the floor. The king provided him with a comfortable room in the palace for the night and instructed him to be ready early the next morning. Dawn broke with golden light streaming through the windows, but the man did not rise. He had been so excited about his good fortune that he had stayed up late into the night, imagining all the ways his life would change. "The treasury will be open all day," he thought to himself. "There's no need to rush." By mid-morning, he finally got out of bed and made his way to the dining hall, where a breakfast had been laid out for him. Instead of eating quickly and proceeding to the treasury, he savored each bite, helped himself to seconds and thirds, and engaged the palace staff in lengthy conversations. "I should prepare properly for collecting the treasure," he thought after finishing his meal. "I need to rest and gather my strength." So instead of heading directly to the treasury, he returned to his room for what he intended to be a short nap. But the comfortable royal bed and his full stomach conspired against him, and he fell into a deep sleep that lasted for several hours. When he finally awoke, the sun had already begun its descent toward the western horizon. Panicked, he jumped up and rushed out, not even taking time to properly dress. On his way to the treasury, he passed through the palace gardens, where the royal gardener was tending to some rare flowers. "These are the king's prized blossoms," the gardener explained. "They bloom only once a year, and today is that day." Despite his urgency, the man paused. "Well, this is a rare opportunity," he reasoned. "I can spare a few minutes to appreciate such beauty. The treasury isn't going anywhere." Those few minutes stretched into an hour as the gardener shared stories about each plant and flower. When he finally tore himself away, the sun was hanging dangerously low in the sky. He ran toward the treasury, but on the way, he passed the palace kitchen, where the aroma of freshly baked bread filled the air. His stomach, though not truly empty, grumbled at the scent. "I should eat something before collecting the treasure," he thought. "I'll need energy to carry all that gold." So he stopped again, convincing himself that this delay was actually necessary preparation. By the time he finally approached the treasury, the sun was touching the horizon. He broke into a run, his heart pounding with desperation. But as he reached the treasury doors, he heard the heavy thud of the locks engaging. The royal treasurer stood outside, key in hand. "I'm sorry," said the treasurer. "By royal decree, the treasury closes at sunset. Those are the king's explicit instructions." The man fell to his knees, begging for just a few minutes, explaining that the king had granted him special permission. But the treasurer shook his head. The king's offer was clear: before sunset. Those were his exact words, which he personally confirmed to me this morning. He said you would understand the lesson. As the last rays of sunlight disappeared and darkness fell, so too did the man's hopes. He had been given an extraordinary opportunity, a chance that comes once in a lifetime, and he had squandered it through a series of delays, each seeming small and reasonable in the moment, but catastrophic in their cumulative effect. The wise man paused here, his eyes never leaving Min's face. The boy sat perfectly still, the parallels between his own life and the story unmistakable. The next morning, the wise man continued. The king summoned his friend. "Did you collect your treasure?" he asked, though he already knew the answer. "No, your majesty," the man replied, head bowed in shame. "I was delayed by various things, and by the time I reached the treasury, the sun had set." The king nodded solemnly. "Then you have received a different treasure, one more valuable than gold or jewels. You have been given the understanding of why your life is as it is. It is not your enemies or bad luck that have determined your fate, but your own choices about how you use your time. Each delay yesterday seemed small and justifiable to you, just as each task you've postponed throughout your life seemed reasonable to defer. But time, once past, cannot be reclaimed." The man finally understood. It wasn't conspiracies or bad fortune that had led to his impoverished state. It was his lifelong habit of procrastination, of believing there would always be more time later. The wise man fell silent, allowing his story to settle into Min's consciousness. The tent was quiet except for the distant sounds of village life continuing outside. Min sat motionless, a profound realization washing over him. For the first time, he truly saw himself, not as a victim of circumstances or misunderstanding, but as the architect of his own mediocrity. Every opportunity he had wasted, every task he had postponed, every responsibility he had avoided, all of these choices had led him to this moment, sitting before a wise man, desperately seeking a shortcut that didn't exist. Min began, then stopped, unsure what to say. Tears welled in his eyes, not tears of self-pity, but of genuine remorse for the time he had squandered and the potential he had neglected. The wise man nodded, understanding the transformation taking place before him. "The greatest tragedy in life, my child, is not failing to reach your goals. It is having no goals to reach. The man who aims at nothing is sure to hit it every time. You have been aiming at later, a target that constantly moves beyond your reach." Min wiped his eyes and straightened his shoulders. "Thank you for this lesson," he said, his voice steady despite his emotions. "I understand now. Time is precious, and I've been treating it as infinite. I will change my ways." The wise man smiled gently. "Remember this, time is more valuable than gold because you can get more gold, but you cannot get more time. Each morning you are given 86,400 seconds as a gift of life, and when you go to sleep at night, any remaining time is not credited to you. What you haven't used up that day is forever lost. Yesterday is a canceled check, tomorrow is a promissory note, today is the only cash you have, so spend it wisely." Min left the tent that day a different person than when he had entered. The change wasn't immediate or magical. Habits formed over years don't disappear in an instant. But something fundamental had shifted in his understanding of himself and his relationship with time. The next morning, instead of lingering in bed, Minh rose with the sun. He completed his chores without being asked, prepared for school thoroughly, and arrived early to help his teacher arrange the classroom. His classmates were surprised by this sudden transformation, some even teasing him about his newfound diligence. But Minh remained undeterred. Day by day, he built new habits. He created schedules for himself, breaking large tasks into smaller, manageable pieces. He discovered that work completed promptly actually left him with more free time to enjoy. But now that leisure was sweetened by the absence of nagging, unfinished obligations. His parents noticed the change with cautious optimism, afraid to comment too directly lest they somehow break the spell. His teachers observed with growing approval as his work improved in both timeliness and quality. And Minh himself began to experience something he had never known before: the quiet satisfaction of achievement, the self-respect that comes from honoring commitments, and the freedom that arises from disciplined action. 6 months after his meeting with the wise man, Minh had risen to the top of his class. A year later, he was offered an apprenticeship with a respected craftsman in a neighboring town, an opportunity that would never have been extended to his former self. 5 years on, he had established his own successful business, built on a reputation for reliability and excellence. When asked about the turning point in his life, Minh always credited that conversation in the wise man's tent. "He helped me understand," Minh would explain, "that time is the most democratic resource in the world. Rich or poor, young or old, we all receive exactly the same amount each day. 24 hours, no more, no less. The difference lies in how we choose to spend it." The story of Minh spread throughout the region, becoming a parable parents told their children. Some embellished it, claiming the wise man had magical powers or that Minh had become fabulously wealthy. But the essential truth remained unchanged. The recognition of time's value had transformed a lazy boy into a man of purpose and achievement. Time is indeed more precious than any material wealth. A minute wasted is gone forever. A day squandered can never be reclaimed. An opportunity missed may never return. As the ancient proverb reminds us, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. So I ask you, what will you do with the time you have been given today? Will you use it purposefully, moving toward your goals and dreams? Or will you, like the man in the story, find yourself standing before a locked treasury as the sun sets, filled with regret for what might have been? The choice, as it always has been, is yours. But remember, the clock is ticking and it waits for no one.